Welcome to e-commerce psychology. This deep dive is powered by Growth Suite. Growth Suite helps you run smart discount campaigns on your store. Test it free on Shopify. Just search for it on the App Store.
Ready to dive in.
Okay, so today we're tackling something that happens, well, incredibly fast. Faster than a blink, really. The first impression someone forms of your online store.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We're talking, 50 milliseconds? Some studies, like Google's, even suggest maybe 17 milliseconds.
17. It's hard to even wrap your head around that speed.
It is, and that's the core question for today, right? Why do these ultra-fast judgments matter so much, especially for an online business? And crucially, what's actually happening inside the brain during that tiny window?
Exactly. We're going deep into the neuroscience behind it all.
To really understand why someone lands on your page and almost instantly decides, yes, I'll stick around, or nope, I'm out.
So let's start with that speed again. 50 milliseconds, maybe 17. It sounds almost artificial. How can our brains even do that?
Well, it seems crazy fast in our modern context, but think about our evolutionary past. It actually makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Our brains are fundamentally wired for rapid assessment. Survival depended on it. Was that shape in the distance a predator or just a rock? Is this plant safe to eat?
Right, those instant life or death judgments.
Exactly. That ability to make snap decisions based on very limited visual cues is deeply ingrained, and it hasn't just vanished now that we live online.
So when I'm shopping for, I don't know, socks, that ancient mechanism is still firing.
Pretty much, yeah. It's repurposed, you could say. Online users are still doing that rapid scanning, but they're looking for different signals.
Not saber-toothed tigers, presumably.
Hopefully not. They're scanning for signals of trust, of professionalism, of aesthetic appeal. Does this site look dodgy? Does it feel right? Is it easy on the eyes, or is it immediately confusing?
And that feeling, that initial gut reaction, happens in those first milliseconds.
That's what the research suggests. It's a very quick, almost subconscious check.
And this isn't just like a psychological curiosity. It has real business impact, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Huge impact. Studies consistently show that a poor first impression can easily double, sometimes even triple your bounce rate.
Oh.
If that initial vibe is off, people just won't bother. They won't scroll, they won't click, they certainly won't buy. But a positive first impression, that encourages them to stay, to explore, to potentially convert.
So those tiny moments translate directly to dollars and cents.
Without a doubt. It sets the stage for everything that follows.
Okay, so brains are fast judges. Let's get into the weeds a bit. The neurobiology. What parts of the brain are doing the heavy lifting here?
Right, so it's a fascinating interplay. A key player is the amygdala. People often think of it just for fear, but it's actually involved in rapidly coding things as positive or negative. It's like the brain's first responder for emotional significance.
So seeing a really nice website could trigger the amygdala in a good way.
It seems so, yes. It's part of that initial like or dislike coding. And the visual information gets there incredibly fast via a sort of shortcut pathway from the thalamus.
A shortcut.
Yeah, think of it like an express lane. Raw visual data hits the thalamus, which relays it straight to the amygdala for a quick emotional assessment before it's fully processed by the visual cortex and the thinking parts of the brain.
Ah, so that's the gut feeling pathway before you even really know what you're looking at.
Exactly. It's a preconscious, immediate reaction. Now, the prefrontal cortex, the more analytical reasoning part, does get involved later.
Okay.
Usually, a few hundred milliseconds later. It refines that initial reaction, makes more sense of it. But that's after the crucial first impression window.
So the gut reaction comes first, the thinking comes slightly after.
Right. And there's also the posterior cingulate cortex, the PCC, which seems involved in assessing value or relevance. But again, that's part of the slightly slower, more evaluative process, not the initial instantaneous hit.
And it's not just brain areas lighting up. There are chemicals involved too, right? Like neurotransmitters.
Definitely. Dopamine is a big one here, often called the seeking or reward chemical. Seeing something visually appealing, like a really well-designed site, can trigger a little dopamine release.
I like this feeling.
Sort of, yeah. It creates anticipation, makes you want to explore more. Conversely, if the site feels chaotic, unsafe, or just plain ugly.
Like flashing banners and weird fonts everywhere.
Exactly. That can trigger the release of stress chemicals, part of the fight or flight response, things like adrenaline, that prompts a quick urge to just leave, click away, escape.
So good design gives a little pleasure boost. Bad design makes you want to run.
That's a simplified but essentially correct way to think about it, yeah. And timing-wise, this initial subcortical activity, the amygdala firing, the basic like-dislike seems to happen within that first 50 to 100 milliseconds. Based on really fundamental visual stuff, shapes, colors, overall layout, then the visual cortex gets more involved processing the details, but that initial primal response often sets the trajectory.
Fascinating stuff. So the brain's making these super fast calls based on visuals. What kind of visuals have the most impact in those milliseconds?
Two concepts are really key here: visual complexity and prototypicality.
Okay, break those down.
Visual complexity is basically how much stuff is on the page and how intricate it looks. Research consistently shows lower complexity is better for first impressions. Clean, simple layouts, lots of white space. They're just easier for the brain to process quickly.
So less clutter equals faster positive judgment.
Generally, yes. High complexity can feel overwhelming or chaotic almost instantly. Then there's prototypicality.
Prototypicality.
Yeah, it just means how much a website conforms to the common conventions or prototype of what a website in its category should look like. Does it have the logo in the top left, navigation across the top or side, a search bar where you expect it?
So familiarity is good.
Very good for that initial impression. Designs that are highly prototypical are easier for the brain to grasp immediately. They feel familiar, safe, intuitive. Trying to be too unique or unconventional in your basic layout can actually backfire in those first moments.
Interesting. So being super avant-garde might actually hurt that instant appeal.
It can, yeah, because it increases the cognitive load right at the start. The brain prefers things it can process easily and quickly in that initial assessment phase.
Makes sense. What about specific visual elements, like pictures or colors?
Oh, absolutely critical. Faces, for instance. Our brains have a specialized area, the fusiform face area, just for processing faces. If your site uses photos of people, maybe staff, customers, models, the perceived expression, trustworthiness, and emotion in those faces can have a very rapid impact on the user's overall feeling.
We're hardwired to read faces quickly.
Exactly. And color, huge impact. Different colors and color palettes evoke emotional associations almost instantly. Think about calming blues for finance sites or energetic reds for food brands. The right colors can signal trust, excitement, or professionalism in a fraction of a second.
While the wrong ones could feel jarring or unprofessional.
Precisely. And don't forget basic patterns and symmetry. The brain tends to prefer order and balance. Symmetrical layouts, repeating patterns, they're generally perceived more positively because they're easier for the visual system to parse.
So before I've even read a headline, my peripheral vision is taking in the overall layout, the color blocks, the symmetry, and forming an opinion.
That's pretty much it. It's a pre-conscious visual assessment. If those basic elements feel harmonious, clean, and familiar, you get a positive initial nudge. If they feel chaotic, cluttered, or just weird, you get a negative one, prompting you to maybe bounce before you even know why.
This really changes how you think about designing a page, doesn't it? So bringing it all together for digital interfaces, specifically websites or apps.
Right. Well, that low visual complexity we talked about is paramount online. Users want simple, clean designs that load fast and are easy to scan. Consistency is key.
And prototypicality.
Hugely important. Putting things where users expect them, navigation, logo, cart icon, search reduces friction instantly. It leverages that preference for familiarity. If someone has to hunt for the search bar, you've already created a tiny bit of negative feeling in those first moments.
Make it effortless.
That's the goal initially. And color, again, is crucial online for conveying brand personality and professionalism almost instantaneously. Is it serious, playful, trustworthy, luxurious? Color helps set that tone immediately.
And we have actual studies confirming the speed online,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The Lingard study showing the 50 meters judgment of attractiveness is a classic. Google's data suggesting even 17 meters for a basic like-dislike, and newer research using EEG.
Brainwave measurements.
Exactly. And eye tracking, they actually show these near-instant brain responses like meh or wow signal that correlate directly with whether someone stays on the site or bounces. The evidence is really strong.
So scientifically, those first milliseconds are make or break. Are there specific design elements that are particularly powerful from a neuroscience perspective?
Definitely. Visual hierarchy is fundamental, making sure The most important thing, maybe your value proposition, a key image, a call to action grabs the eye first. You're guiding the brain's initial focus.
Using size, color, placement.
Exactly. White space is another one. It's not empty space. It's crucial for reducing cognitive load, helping the brain parse the layout and separate elements easily. It makes things feel less cluttered and overwhelming.
And typography. Does font choice matter that quickly?
It contributes, absolutely.
Okay.
Consistent, clean, readable typography signals professionalism and care. If the fonts are messy, inconsistent, or hard to read, even subconsciously, it can create a feeling of low quality or untrustworthiness very quickly.
This is incredibly practical. So for someone listening who runs an e-commerce store, how do they apply all this? What are the actionable takeaways?
Okay, the core message is keep it clean visually. Use ample white space. Stick to established conventions for layout. Don't try to reinvent the wheel unnecessarily when it comes to where things go. That leverages prototypicality.
Embrace familiarity in a way.
For the initial structure, yes. And choose your color palette carefully. Make sure it's harmonious, appealing, and aligns with your brand's intended feeling. Use color strategically to guide the eye.
And this is even more important on mobile, I guess. Smaller screen?
Absolutely critical on mobile. You have even less space and potentially less user patience. Simplicity, clarity, and intuitive layout are magnified in importance on smaller screens.
So nail the basics. Clean, conventional, good colors.
That's a great starting point. And then test. A/B testing visual elements is crucial. Test button colors, image placements, slight layout variations. You're trying to optimize for that positive initial gut feeling.
Small tweaks could make a difference in those milliseconds.
They really can. Think about your logo shape and brand colors, too. How might they be triggering rapid positive or trust associations? It's similar to product packaging in a physical store. Bold, clear, appealing designs capture attention in micro moments. The underlying brain principles are the same.
This has been absolutely fascinating. A real deep dive into that split-second decision. If you had to boil it down to one key takeaway for everyone listening.
It's that those first impressions on your website happen blindingly fast within milliseconds, and they are heavily driven by pre-conscious visual processing in the brain, tapping into fundamental preferences for simplicity and familiarity.
So don't underestimate the power of a visually clean, intuitive, and somewhat conventional design to immediately signal trustworthiness and make people want to stick around.
Exactly. Get that initial moment right, and you've won a crucial first battle.
So as you think about your own online store, consider this. How might even seemingly small visual tweaks, a cleaner header, more white space, a different button color, impact those critical first milliseconds? It could have a bigger effect on your conversions than you think.
It's definitely worth considering.
Thank you so much for sharing all this insight today.
My pleasure. It's fascinating stuff.
And thanks to all of you for joining us on e-commerce psychology. Remember, this deep dive was powered by Growth Suite. If you want to run smart discount campaigns on your Shopify store, check out Growth Suite. You can test it for free. Just search the Shopify App Store. We'll see you next time.